When Terry accused me of infidelity during a business trip and demanded a divorce, his voice thundered through the phone, but instead of feeling shaken, I felt nothing but calm. His explosive rants were nothing new to me, just another of his overdramatic outbursts. Even as I could almost feel his fury vibrating across the line, I stood my ground, unfazed. His belief that I would fall for his emotional manipulation was almost laughable. As his baseless accusations collided with my firm resolve, I couldn't help but oscillate between mild irritation and a sense of amusement. But somewhere in the middle of it all, something shifted. This wasn't just a petty argument, it felt like a turning point for me. Internally, I couldn't suppress a smirk at his futile attempt to control the situation. Then, in a moment of clarity, it hit me, it was my turn to take charge. I'm Megan, 30, and I've worked at the same college bookstore since I graduated from junior college at 21. Terry, 3 years older, has never had the same career stability. When we first met 2 years ago, he was constantly job hopping or unemployed. His proposal came quickly, but I had one condition: he needed to secure a stable job first. I was determined not to marry without ensuring our financial future. There's a condition, I said firmly, noticing the anxiety in his eyes. You need to get a stable job. Marriage can't be the next step until we've got our financial future sorted. He shrugged it off, trying to sound casual. Don't worry, you're working, so there's no rush, right? But my parents would never approve of me marrying without a stable job, I explained. He finally agreed to get serious about his job search. Within weeks, he found an office role at a construction company, and we moved forward with our wedding plans. I thought of him as reckless with his finances, but I believed we could balance each other out. I'd help him be more responsible, and he'd encourage me to loosen up. But, as it often happens, the real challenges were only just beginning. About a year into our marriage, as we started looking for a house, Terry casually dropped a bombshell. I might not qualify for a mortgage, he said one evening, as if it were no big deal. I froze. What do you mean? He explained, almost nonchalantly. Since I haven't been at my job long, I might need a guarantor. My dad could help, but he's got his own financial issues with gambling. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? I asked, stunned, especially as we were already sitting at the table with a contract and the real estate agent beside us. Terry, ever calm, suggested, if we put the house in your name, the mortgage should be fine. You've been at your job forever, so it's just a technicality. We'll both pay the mortgage. But that's not the point, I snapped, frustration bubbling over. Why didn't you bring this up earlier? This affects both of us, and I'm not even ready with the paperwork. He apologized, but his regret seemed hollow. His words lacked any real weight, and though I wanted to press the issue, the situation had already moved beyond our control. The contract was on the table, the real estate agent waiting for an answer. Despite my frustration, I chose to bite my tongue, for now. Reluctantly, I scrambled to gather the documents for the loan application, my income statement, the bank statements, everything I needed. In a moment of impulsive decision-making, I agreed to finalize the purchase of the house under my name. Doubts crept in almost immediately. Could I really see a future with Terry? Perhaps I should have drawn a line in the sand and refused to move forward, but instead, I was caught up in the urgency of it all, feeling the weight of my decisions grow heavier, especially with the added complication of my father-in-law's financial troubles. Just the other day, I was talking to Dad. Terry said one evening, his voice casual. He might lose his house because of those debts I told you about, so he's thinking about moving in with us. Is that okay with you? The words hit me like a ton of bricks. Why would you even consider that without discussing it with me first? I shot back, my frustration rising. Terry shrugged as if the answer was simple. Well, he's in trouble, and my brother's working abroad, so I'm the only one who can help. Maybe we could let him stay for a while, just until he gets things sorted. Temporary? I can understand that, but permanent? That's a huge decision, I replied, my voice tight with frustration. Terry's frown deepened. You just don't want him to stay, do you? We could split the living expenses if he moves in. I couldn't hold back my sharp response. You're always talking about money, the money you never seem to contribute. You promised we'd split the mortgage, but I'm the only one paying. I'm the one who's been shouldering all of it. In a marriage, finances are meant to be shared. It's not just my money, it's supposed to be ours, but it's only coming out of my account because the house is in my name. You're being incredibly self-centered, he muttered, his voice dripping with frustration. I could feel my own temper rise. Self-centered? You're the one avoiding responsibility. Before I could say anything more, Terry muttered something about hating discussions about money and stormed out of the room. This wasn't the first time we had a blow-up like this, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. He never took my concerns seriously, and we were always left with the same unresolved tensions hanging between us. Even though we were in constant conflict, Terry didn't entirely ignore his family's situation. As part of his work in construction site administration, he was often involved in dealing with real estate contracts. He'd started seeking advice from an agency on how to sell his family's home. Though I was never really part of those discussions, I overheard bits and pieces of his talks, and while it felt like a reminder of everything that was wrong, I took some comfort in knowing he was at least taking action. Still, the idea of my in-laws moving in with us after the sale of their house loomed like a shadow over everything. Terry began meeting with real estate agents, bringing his parents along, but leaving me out of the process entirely. His weekends were consumed with trips and meetings, and soon enough, he left for an extended business trip to oversee a construction project far away. At the time, I couldn't fully grasp it, but looking back, I realized those were the first signs of the growing power struggle between us. A few days after Terry left, I decided to take a breather and treat myself to some shopping and a quiet cup of tea at the cafe. As I walked in, I was greeted by a familiar face, Bruce, a young employee from the real estate company Terry had been consulting. Terry had mentioned Bruce was still fairly new to the company, having only been there for less than a year. "Ah, yes, I remember you," I said with a smile. "You stopped by our house before, didn't you?" "Yes, sorry about that," Bruce said, his voice sincere. "I didn't mean to drop by unannounced, and I ended up staying for a meal. I feel bad about that." "No need to apologize," I said with a smile. "I should have been more welcoming." We ended up sitting down for tea together. Bruce was friendly, more grounded than Terry, and we quickly found common ground in our conversation. What began as a casual exchange soon turned into a pleasant chat, and by the time we parted ways, I felt like I had made a small connection. I never imagined that a simple meeting for tea would later become the foundation for a devastating accusation. But when Terry returned, his anger flared, and he confronted me, his words cold and accusing. "You've been cheating on me." While I was away, Terry dropped the bombshell, his words crashing down on me without warning. "Haven't you? We're getting a divorce. Give the house to my parents and leave immediately." It hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me stunned and disoriented. My mind raced as I tried to process it, wondering if the rumors I'd been hearing were true, rumors Terry had been spreading, claiming I was unfaithful, all to justify his decision to divorce me. The man he'd accused me of having an affair with was Bruce, the very person I'd met for a harmless tea, the one Terry had wrongfully insinuated I was involved with. The next day, Bruce showed up at my door, his expression apologetic. "I'm sorry for dropping by like this," Bruce said hesitantly. "Terry asked me to reach out to you." Confused and desperate for answers, I invited him in, eager to understand what was really going on. What Bruce revealed next left me breathless. Terry had orchestrated an elaborate scheme to accuse me of infidelity and set the stage for our divorce. Bruce, though unwillingly pulled into the plot, was tasked with helping Terry fabricate evidence to make the story believable. The reasoning behind Terry's betrayal was twofold. First, he was panicking about the possibility of losing his parents' home due to their financial struggles. Terry saw moving in with them as an easy solution, but my refusal to go along with it pushed him to concoct a plan to get rid of me and claim the house for himself. Secondly, Terry had been carrying on an affair of his own. While I thought he was working on resolving family issues, he was actually spending his weekends with his mistress. His growing infatuation with her had turned me, his wife, into an obstacle he needed to remove. By framing me as unfaithful, he believed he could both get rid of me and secure the house. I had always underestimated Terry's cunning, but the depth of his deceit stunned me. I felt a mix of disgust and disbelief as Bruce apologized for his part in the scheme, but I wasn't about to let Terry get away with it. I feigned compliance, all while silently plotting my next move. With Bruce's insider knowledge of real estate, he suggested a few tactics to turn the tables. Finally, he proposed a bold plan: sell the house while Terry was away. When Terry returned, unaware of what had transpired, I'd confront him with the truth. And that's exactly what I did. "I know everything, Terry," I began, my voice steady, savoring the look of shock on his face. "Bruce recorded all your schemes, everything, including your plan to frame me for cheating. If this divorce goes through, I can take you to court for alimony." He stammered, caught completely off guard. "Why?" he muttered, unable to process the gravity of the situation. But I wasn't done yet. "You didn't realize this, but Bruce isn't just some employee. He's the son of the company's CEO, I continued, watching his face twist in confusion. "Didn't you notice? Bruce shares the same last name as the CEO." Terry's lack of awareness was almost too much to bear. "Are you serious right now?" I said, incredulous. "How did you not see that?" His disbelief was palpable. "Well, Bruce's last name isn't exactly rare." "Are you for real?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Terry hesitated, his mind slowly processing the magnitude of his mistake. It began to sink in that Bruce's involvement meant the company that handled a large portion of his family's real estate deals was now privy to his deception. If the CEO found out, Terry would be in deep trouble. In fact, Bruce had likely already informed his father of everything. Terry's tone shifted as he realized the precariousness of his situation. "Fine, I'll check it out, but if you're lying, I'll find out," he muttered, his voice strained, before slamming the phone down. The fallout came quickly. The real estate company, owned by Bruce's father, severed all business ties with Terry. No more advice, no more dealings with his family's property. The damage was done. With the house already sold, Terry was left with no choice but to return to his parents' home after his business trip. Meanwhile, Bruce had helped me find a modest apartment, easing my transition as I began the painful process of filing for divorce. Despite everything, Terry continued to reach out, his voice desperate over the phone. "I'm sorry, Megan, please, forgive me," he begged, his words dripping with regret. I wasn't moved. "It's too late for apologies," I replied coldly. "You tried to manipulate me, using someone else to do your dirty work. Why should I believe anything you say now?" "Don't say that," he protested, shifting the blame. "After the divorce, you can be with that other woman, right? That's what you wanted, isn't it?" I was done. "Yeah, she had someone else, and she dumped me. What a sad story," I said, the bitterness seeping into my voice. "But don't expect me to change my mind and come running back to you just because of that." I ended the call with a weary sigh, my resolve stronger than ever. Terry wasn't easily deterred, though. Despite my best efforts to keep my new address hidden, his calls never stopped. Each time, his pleas were the same: "Please don't leave me. I'll change. I'll be a better husband." But I was tired of hearing empty promises. Once the divorce was finalized, I was going to block him everywhere, delete his number, block him on WhatsApp, and sever all ties completely. But even that wasn't the end. My mother-in-law called, her voice tinged with desperation. "Please, Megan, we're lost without you. It's not just about the house, is it?" I snapped. "There's no house left, remember?" I reminded her, frustration building. "And we're not heartless. You'll understand when you see it." She tried to twist the conversation. "You wanted the money, didn't you?" I didn't hold back. "That's not true, and you know it. You tried to manipulate me into living with you, and I won't fall for it." Her attempts to reason with me fell flat, and I refused to listen. Their motives were too clear, and I wasn't going to let them draw me back into their web of manipulation. When my refusal to comply persisted, Terry resorted to more deception to gain an edge in the divorce. He wasn't someone I could trust, not now, not ever. I made it clear that his financial motivations were transparent and that I would not be swayed. But the pressure didn't stop. My father-in-law, in a fit of condescension, tried to guilt me into helping more. He accused me of neglecting my duties as a daughter-in-law, claiming I was abandoning his wife during her time of need. He even implied that my refusal was due to some supposed debt I owed. I stood firm, unwavering in my decision. His reaction, however, escalated quickly. His voice grew louder and more venomous, accusing me of cruelty and blaming my issues on my mother-in-law. He threatened me, calling me a wicked woman, and vowed I'd regret my decisions. When the call ended, I was shaken but resolute. I saved the recording of his threats and brought it to my lawyer. As it turned out, his words were legally considered threats. Armed with this evidence, I confronted Terry, warning him that I was prepared to take legal action if he didn't agree to the divorce terms. Reluctantly, he finally gave in. That was my final liberation from the clutches of his family. The divorce was finalized, and Terry's professional life began to crumble. His colleagues grew wary of him, and his responsibilities at work dwindled. His family's financial troubles caught up with him, and he was forced to sell their home for far less than its value. He now lives in a small apartment with his parents, struggling with a reduced income and the pressure of supporting them. To top it off, he's required to pay me alimony. I found out the full extent of Terry's downfall through Bruce, who had remained a trusted friend. Bruce, who had recently moved to the HR department of a real estate firm, suggested I apply for a job there, leveraging my customer service experience. After considering the opportunity, I decided to take the plunge and join the company. As I transitioned into this new phase of my life, Bruce and I grew closer. Our friendship turned into something more, and after a year of dating, we decided to get married. It was a surprising turn of events, but one that felt right. Bruce eventually became the president of the company, and I was proud to stand by his side. Looking back, I couldn't help but reflect on the irony of it all. Terry, who had once falsely accused us of infidelity, was now witnessing Bruce and me build a life together. With the support of my new family, including my in-laws, I finally felt at peace. Bruce and I looked forward to creating a future filled with love, support, and the happiness I had long been denied.